You know, when you hear the name Jose Rizal, your mind probably jumps straight to the Philippines' national hero, the brilliant thinker, the incredible writer, the martyr who died for his country. But that's really only half the story.
Yeah, that public image it's legendary, right? It's immortalized in statues, it's taught in every textbook. He's this absolute icon, the revolutionary mind that sparked a nation.
But behind that icon was a man of deep, passionate feeling. He had a private life that was just filled with love and longing, and an almost unbelievable amount of self-control. It kind of makes you ask a different question. Who was the man behind the monument? So that's what we're going to explore. We're going to get into the story of his most personal battle, this constant, painful war between his duty to his country and his own very human desire for a happy life. See, at the very core of Rizal's story, you've got these two huge competing forces that were just pulling him in opposite directions his entire adult life. On one side, you have his absolute unwavering dedication to the Filipino people and the fight for freedom. And on the other side, well, you've got that deep human need for companionship, for a family, for just some domestic peace. His entire life was a series of heartbreaking choices between these two. And you know, this pattern, it starts really early on. His first love, this innocent puppy love with Segunda Katigbak. It all came to an end when she got engaged to someone else. Sure, it was a youthful heartbreak, but it really set the stage for this reoccurring theme in his life. Love was something that was just out of reach.
But then there was the big one, his most significant relationship, the one that really represented his only true shot at that domestic happiness he wanted. And that was with Leonor Rivera.
I mean, their love story is just a testament to patience. It lasted for over a decade, almost entirely through letters while he was off in Europe. She was his rock, his emotional anchor, the one person he could tell all his dreams and frustrations to. But the obstacles they faced were just massive. Leonor's mother absolutely hated Rizal's political work. She was terrified for her daughter's safety. So she started deliberately intercepting his letters, hiding them from Leonor, slowly strangling their connection and pushing her daughter toward another man. So you can imagine when Rizal finally found out she was married, he was completely crushed. And this loss wasn't just a personal tragedy. It would literally echo through his famous novels, cementing this belief in his mind that his path, his destiny, was totally incompatible with personal happiness. And this theme of sacrifice just follows him. During his time in Europe, his love life became a constant test of his own moral code. You start to see this recurring pattern play out. He'd meet a smart, fascinating woman like Consuelo Ortega in Madrid, and they'd form a real connection. But then some kind of moral roadblock would pop up. In Consuelo's case, he found out that a close friend of his also had feelings for her. And every single time, what did Rizal do? He chose his principles. He stepped aside for his friend. Now, his relationship with Nelly Bostade in Paris, that one was even more serious. This wasn't just some passing crush. They were genuinely talking about marriage. This was another real chance for him to have a completely different life. But, of course, there was a catch. Nelly's family was insistent if he wanted to marry her, he had to convert to Protestantism. And Rizal, even though he was a harsh critic of the church's abuses, he held on to his own core beliefs. His answer was a firm no. Once again, his principles won out over passion. Okay, so that brings us to his final chapter and his final love, which happened during his exile in Dapitan. A woman named Josephine Bracken came into his life, and she represented one last shot at that quiet, simple life he always seemed to want. Josephine had actually come to Dapitan because she heard Rizal was a brilliant doctor and she needed his help. They fell in love, and she ended up living with him, sharing his exile. For a little while, it almost seemed like he'd finally gotten it, that peaceful family life he'd been longing for.
But here we go again. Another ultimatum. The church authorities refused to grant them a marriage lesson unless Rizal signed a document publicly retracting all of his political writings. I mean, think about that. It was the ultimate test. He could have the woman he loved, the legitimacy of a marriage, but only if he threw away everything he had ever fought for. He said no. And what's so incredible is that despite all that political pressure, despite not having a piece of paper to make it official,
Josephine's loyalty never, ever wavered. She stood by him. She was a true partner in his darkest days, right up to the very, very end.
So, when you step back and look at all of these stories together, you start to realize this wasn't just a string of bad luck and love. This was a conscious choice. This was a philosophy.
It really boils down to this. Rizal genuinely believed that any woman who married him would be signing up for a life of misery and political persecution. In his mind, true love meant protecting them from that fate, and the only way to do that was to let them go. He decided his patriotism demanded that he be alone.
And all of that profound personal sadness, it wasn't just locked away. He channeled it, poured it directly into his art. The themes you see in his novels, lost love, betrayal, sacrifice, those aren't just political metaphors. They are direct echoes of his own broken heart. Which brings us to what his legacy is really all about. We all know he gave his life for his country, but when you look at his romantic history, you see that the sacrifice he made was so much deeper, so much more personal. In the end, his romantic story comes down to a single stark number: 0. For all the love he felt, for all the love he inspired in others, he died a bachelor. And it wasn't because he didn't have opportunities. It was a deliberate and, I'm sure, incredibly painful choice. So we're left with this lingering question. We rightly celebrate Rizal for giving his life to the Philippines. But when you truly understand the loves he had to give up along the way, it makes you wonder, did he have to sacrifice his heart piece by painful piece long before he ever stood in front of that firing squad?